Hello everyone, welcome back to Leo's Daily English. If you find our lessons helpful, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel so you never miss an episode on mastering workplace communication. I'm your host, Leo, and today I'm joined by Chloe.
Hi, Leo. I'm so excited for today's deep dive. We're tackling a scenario that is a universal corporate tragedy. It's 4:55 p.m. on a Friday, you're mentally at dinner, and suddenly your manager drops a massive spreadsheet on your desk.
It's the ultimate danger zone. Most newcomers feel forced to say a soul-crushing sure, even when their brain is screaming no. Today, we are breaking down the psychological and linguistic art of saying no using a brilliant visual metaphor, the velvet glove.
Exactly. We'll explore how to use softeners like actually and I'd rather to protect your boundaries without detonating your career. We'll be speaking at an intentionally slow pace today so you can catch every syllable and shift in tone. Let's get into it.
Picture this. It is 4:55 p.m. on a Friday.
Oh, the absolute danger zone.
Right. The danger zone. Your bags are packed. Your computer screen is showing that like really glorious, tranquil desktop background.
The beach scene.
Exactly, the beach scene. And the weekend is practically singing your name. You are mentally already at dinner.
Yeah.
And then a shadow falls across your desk. Your manager drops this massive 50-page, totally unformatted, data-heavy spreadsheet right next to your keyboard.
Oh, no.
And they say, hey, I know it's late, but the client needs a complete pivot on the strategy. I need a full analysis by tonight.
It's brutal.
In that exact fraction of a second, your stomach just drops, your heart rate spikes.
Yeah.
Your brain is screaming one single solitary word, which is obviously no.
Real wave.
But what actually comes out of your mouth for most of us, especially if you are, relatively new to a company, navigating those early career years, it's this hesitant, soul-crushing, sure, yeah, I can look at that.
It is the universal corporate tragedy. We just surrender our time, our energy, and frankly, our sanity.
Yeah.
And we do it all because the sheer unadulterated terror of saying the word no to a superior or even a colleague, it just overrides our basic survival instincts.
It really does. Which is exactly why today's deep dive is so critical. We are not just talking about generic time management today. We are breaking down the precise psychological and linguistic art of saying no at work.
Yes, we are. And I want to pause right here at the top and give our listener a quick heads up about the format today.
Oh yeah, good point.
Because today's deep dive is designed specifically as a foundational listening practice, especially for workplace newcomers.
Right.
So we are going to be speaking at an intentionally slow, deliberate, and clear pace throughout the entire discussion.
Yes, we are really dialing back the speed. We want you, the listener, to hear every single syllable, every pause, and every shift in tone.
Exactly. Because when it comes to professional English conversations, how you sound is just as important as what you say.
Totally. So we have a phenomenal source material today that completely deconstructs this whole dilemma.
It really is great.
It focuses on how to politely express a refusal, and it introduces this visual metaphor that honestly blew my mind, the velvet glove.
The velvet glove. It is a brilliant concept.
Right.
We are going to be dissecting how specific, seemingly innocent words, what the source calls softeners, can fundamentally alter the power dynamics of your workplace communication.
We'll go through tons of practical stuff too. Like we've got actual scenarios for refusing colleagues, a role play for pushing back on a manager, dealing with overtime.
Oh, the overtime requests, we will definitely cover how to handle those.
Yeah. We want to give you, the listener, the exact scripts and the exact intonation to set firm work boundaries without sounding like a jerk.
Because if you just said what you were actually thinking at 4:55 p.m. on that Friday.
You're like, no, I'm not doing that. It's unreasonable. Bye.
Right. If you do that, you might technically protect your Friday night, but you are absolutely detonating your career.
Yeah, you're the office villain at that point.
Exactly. And to understand why that detonation happens, we have to look at the cultural differences and etiquette behind workplace refusals.
Let's get into that. Why is just saying a flat no so heavily penalized?
Well, think about modern corporate culture. We have moved away from the industrial era model of just strict, unquestioning obedience.
Right. It's all about synergy now.
Yes. Today, the modern knowledge worker operates in a culture that absolutely fetishizes collaboration.
Team players.
Exactly. You are constantly told to be a team player, have a can-do attitude, lean in. So the entire corporate vocabulary is built around saying yes.
So when you introduce a blunt no into that environment, it feels like throwing a wrench into the machine.
It does. It causes a shockwave. In professional English, a blunt, unadorned no is perceived as an act of hostility.
Wow. Hostility.
Yes, it feels aggressive, dismissive, and fundamentally uncooperative.
But I hear executives say all the time, I value straight shooters, or just give it to me straight.
Yeah, they say that.
So if everyone is so busy, why can't we just be ruthlessly efficient and say, no, I cannot do that task?
It's a great question. And it comes down to the difference between stated values and actual human psychology. A leader might say they want ruthless efficiency.
Right.
But when a blunt no is directed at them, their ego takes the hit.
Ah, the ego threat.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It is an ego threat. When someone makes a request of you, they are implicitly extending a bid for connection, or they're asking for help.
And if you just chop that off with a sharp no.
Psychologically, they feel like you are rejecting them personally. You are signaling that you don't value the relationship.
That makes perfect sense. I like to think of it like you're driving a car full of passengers.
Okay, I like this.
And you suddenly see a red light. You need to stop. Your refusal is the red light.
Right.
Now, if you just absolutely slam on the brakes, the car stops, sure. But your passengers are thrown forward, the seatbelts lock up, coffee spills everywhere.
Everyone is angry at you.
Exactly. It is jarring and uncomfortable.
But if you see the red light early and you gradually press the brakes,
You still stop at the exact same line. The boundary is enforced. But the ride remains completely smooth. Nobody spills their coffee.
that gradual braking is exactly what we are teaching today.
Okay, so that perfectly transitions us into the core solution from our source material. The visual metaphor. Let's really slow down and unpack the velvet glove.
The velvet glove. Historically, the phrase an iron hand in a velvet glove describes leaders who are unbending, but who mask that power behind extreme courtesy.
So let's look at the velvet first. What does velvet actually do in a conversation?
Think about the feeling of velvet. It is smooth, it's plush, it absorbs impact.
Right.
In language, velvet represents politeness, diplomacy, and care for the other person's feelings. It is the outer layer of your message.
It's the wrapping paper. I was thinking about this, and I compare it to wrapping a heavy masonry brick in a thick, luxurious down blanket.
Oh, I love that. Let's explore the brick.
Okay, so the brick is the rejection itself. The brick is the word no. It is the reality that I am not doing your spreadsheet tonight. A brick has weight. It's solid. If I just chuck a raw brick at your head, the blunt no, it leaves a bruise, and you are furious with me.
Naturally, I'm bleeding.
Exactly. But if I take that exact same brick and I swaddle it in a soft blanket, the velvet glove, and I gently toss it to you,
I still catch it.
you catch it. You feel the heavy weight of the brick inside. The reality hasn't changed, but the impact of the delivery doesn't hurt you.
That captures the essence beautifully.
Yeah.
The velvet prevents the recipient's nervous system from triggering a fight or flight response.
Right, because when someone hears a sudden no, they want to argue, they want to pull rank.
Yes. The velvet soothes that response. And the source is very specific about how we weave this velvet using what it calls softeners.
Softeners. Let's define that for our listener.
A softener is a linguistic buffer. It is a word or a short phrase deliberately placed at the beginning of a sentence to slow down the pace of the rejection.
Like applying the brakes.
Exactly. It signals to the listener's brain that a pivot is coming.
Okay, I have to play devil's advocate here because I can hear the anxiety from junior employees.
Let's hear it.
If I am using all these soft, cushiony words, don't I just sound weak? Isn't there a huge risk that softeners make me sound passive?
That is the single most common misconception about polite communication, and it is a critical trap to avoid.
Okay.
We must separate the delivery of the message from the decision itself.
Delivery versus decision.
Right. Softeners adjust the delivery. They do not dilute the decision. Using a softener is a demonstration of high conversational emotional intelligence.
High conversational emotional intelligence.
When you use a softener, you are implicitly telling the other person, I am in complete control of my workload, I am firmly declining your request, but I respect you enough to deliver this gracefully.
If you have both the firm decision and the soft delivery, you are powerful.
Yes. But if you only have the velvet, if you're all softeners and no boundary, what happens?
Then you are just a people pleaser doing spreadsheets at midnight.
Exactly. If you say, well, I was kind of thinking maybe I might not have time.
Ugh. Yeah, that's not a velvet glove. That's a pile of mush.
It is. So let's get into the actual tools. The source provides us with 5 core polite refusal words to practice. We'll start with the first 2 major ones.
Okay, let's deconstruct the word actually.
Actually. It seems so simple, but it is a premier tool for establishing boundaries.
Why is it so powerful?
Think about what happens when a colleague asks for a favor. They assume you have the time, and they assume you are willing.
Right.
When you place actually at the absolute beginning of your response, it gently signals their assumption is factually incorrect.
Oh, I see.
It frames your refusal not as a personal rejection, but simply as the introduction of a new reality, like a schedule clash.
So instead of saying, no, I'm busy, which feels like a wall,
You say, actually, I have a clash at that time.
it changes it from a face-to-face confrontation into a shoulder-to-shoulder problem-solving exercise.
Exactly. But the word alone isn't magic. The vocal delivery is what weaves the velvet.
Let's do a role play to test this. I want to show the difference between an impolite and a polite refusal.
Perfect.
I'm going to be a demanding colleague. I'll ask you to do something, and first, I want you to respond with a sharp, combative tone using the word actually.
Okay, I'll give you the iron without the velvet.
Hey, I need you to drop whatever you're doing and rewrite this proposal by 5 p.m. today.
Actually, I can't do that. I'm busy.
Oof. Yeah, my blood pressure just spiked. That felt really aggressive. The pace was too fast.
Right. The word was correct, but the delivery was wrong. Now let's reset. Ask me again.
Hey, I need you to drop whatever you're doing and rewrite this proposal by 5 p.m. today.
Actually, I am at full capacity today. I won't be able to pivot to that until tomorrow.
The difference is night and day. It is the exact same boundary. You are not doing the proposal, but I didn't feel attacked.
Let's break down the pronunciation for our listener step by step.
Yes, let's do some listening guidance and pronunciation breakdown.
The word is actually. 4 syllables. The stress is heavily on the first syllable. But to create the velvet effect, you must elongate that first vowel sound.
Elongate the vowel.
Right. Don't clip it. Stretch it out. Listen closely. Actually.
Actually, it almost sounds like a sigh.
It is the auditory equivalent of a sigh. It softens the entry. And then the most important part, the pause.
Yes. The pause was massive. You said actually, and then you just hung there in silence for a full second.
That pause is the shock absorber. When you say actually and stop, it forces the listener's brain to recalibrate.
They brace for the bad news.
Exactly. So listener, let's do a quick interactive practice. We're going to test your mastery of this polite phrasing.
All right, listener, it's your turn. I'm going to be the annoying colleague. I want you to say actually with a long A, add a deep pause, and then say, I have a prior commitment.
We will leave a gap of silence for you to practice speaking out loud.
Here we go. Hey, can you stay late tonight and help me with this report?
Pause for listener practice.
How did they...
Hopefully you stretch that first syllable. Actually, I have a prior commitment.
Awesome. Let's map this onto another scenario. Instant messaging bombardment.
Oh, dealing with Slack or Teams?
Yes. You are trying to do deep work, and a coworker keeps pinging you. Did you see that email? What do you think of the new logo?
It destroys productivity.
How do we use the velvet glove over instant messenger?
You use the exact same architecture. You type, actually, I am heads down on a strict deadline right now. Let's catch up later.
And the text version of a pause.
You can use a comma, or if you want to be very gentle, an M dash. Actually, I am heads down.
Perfect. Now let's look at another core buffer word. The source suggests inserting words like perhaps or maybe at the beginning of a sentence to lower the aggressiveness.
Yes, perhaps, or maybe, which in some languages translates to UI or I might. These are fantastic softeners.
Let's do a scenario for an urgent task. Refusing a sudden unreasonable work allocation from your boss.
This is a high-stakes role play. Subordinate refusing the boss.
I'll be the boss. You be the subordinate. Listen, I just got off the phone with the client. They want a complete redesign of the homepage, and they want it by tomorrow morning. I'm assigning this to you.
Okay, watch how I use perhaps as a buffer here. Perhaps we should look at the timeline on this. I am currently finishing the back-end update. If I drop that for the redesign, the whole launch is delayed. Can we push the client back to Friday?
Oh, that's incredibly smooth.
Let's break down the logic. I didn't say no. I used perhaps we should look at the timeline to invite you into a discussion.
You created a win-win buffering dialogue. You showed me the consequence of the urgent task.
Right. It's a strategic pushback.
Let's do a quick pop quiz for the listener at the end of this section.
Great idea.
Listener, true or false? When your boss gives you an unreasonable deadline, the most professional thing to do is immediately say, I can't do that.
The answer is false. You want to use a buffer like perhaps or actually to open a negotiation about resources.
Spot on. Okay, let's move to the next powerful phrase from our source text. I'd rather, or similarly, I tend to.
Yes, I'd rather, which is short for I would rather, is a masterpiece of corporate diplomacy.
Why does it work so well?
Because it executes a psychological pivot. When someone asks you to do something you don't want to do, the instinct is to use negative language. I won't do that.
And negative language builds walls.
Exactly. I'd rather takes that refusal and spins it into a positive, preference-based statement. You aren't saying what you won't do. You are enthusiastically offering what you prefer to do instead.
Okay, but as a newcomer, I might be thinking, does my boss actually care what I would rather do? Doesn't that sound insubordinate?
That is the fear. But you don't use it to express a personal desire like, I'd rather go home.
Right, that won't fly.
You use it to express a professional preference that aligns with the company's goals.
Show me how that works. Let's do a scenario where we are refusing extra communication during remote work.
Very common.
It's 7 p.m. You're eating dinner. A colleague texts your personal phone. Hey, just sent you a file. Can we hop on a quick call to review it tonight?
If you say yes, you set a terrible precedent. Here is the velvet glove response using our new phrase. Actually, I have just logged off for the evening. I'd rather tackle this with fresh eyes first thing tomorrow morning so I don't miss any details. Talk to you at 9 a.m.
Oh, wow. The liaison there is really important, too. I'd rather. Listeners, you don't say I would rather.
Right, you blend it together. Listen to the linkage. I'd rather. I'd rather.
Let's have the listener do a shadowing training on that exact phrase. We'll loop it twice.
Good idea. Listener, repeat after me, focusing on the smooth liaison. I'd rather tackle this with fresh eyes.
Pause.
Once more. I'd rather tackle this with fresh eyes.
Pause.
Excellent.
That is such a good phrase. You are selling them on the benefit of your refusal. You're saying, if I do this tomorrow, you get better quality work.
Exactly. Let's test this in a completely different, highly uncomfortable face-to-face scenario.
Yeah.
Borrowing money.
Oh, the worst. Face-to-face, refusing a colleague who wants to borrow money.
Very awkward. You are in the break room. A colleague says, hey, I left my wallet at home. Can you spot me $50 for the group lunch? I'll Venmo you next week.
A people pleaser just hands over the cash and resents them for weeks.
But if we use our tools, we could deploy the phrase, I tend to. This is another variation of the preference bucker.
Okay, show me.
Actually, I have a strict rule about that. I tend to keep my personal finances and work completely separate, so things never get weird between colleagues. I hope you understand.
That is lethal, but so polite. I tend to keep my finances separate. It externalizes the boundary. It's not that I don't trust you. It's just this rigid rule I follow.
And it leaves absolutely zero room for negotiation.
Let's do another one. Meeting invitations. We all get too many of them. What's a short phrase for declining a meeting invite?
Another great softener is, unfortunately. It delivers bad news with built-in empathy.
Let's hear it.
Unfortunately, my bandwidth is completely full this afternoon. I won't be able to join the call, but please send me the recording.
Simple, professional, firm.
Let's talk about the proportions of using these buffers.
What do you mean by proportions?
You don't want to stack 5 softeners in one sentence. If you say, actually, perhaps, maybe, unfortunately, I'd rather not.
You sound ridiculous.
Right. You lose all your authority. The proportion should be one strong buffer at the start, followed by a clear, factual boundary.
Okay, let's practice this with a scenario for dealing with a vendor. Refusing a vendor's pitch.
Great practice for holding a firm line.
A software vendor is aggressively pushing you to upgrade your company's package right now. If you sign today, I can give you 20% off.
Your response. I appreciate the offer. However, we are currently pausing all new software adoptions for Q3. I tend to prefer evaluating new tools at the start of the fiscal year. Feel free to follow up in January.
Notice the transition words there. I appreciate the offer. However,
Yes. However is a more formal, polite transition word to soften the tone in a B2B setting.
let's have a quick self-assessment segment for the listener.
Okay.
Think back to a time this past month when you said yes to something at work, but you really wanted to say no. Did you use a buffer? Or did you just cave to the pressure?
It's important to reflect on that. Self-review helps you prepare for the next time.
All right, we've covered the velvet. Now we need to address the most crucial phase of the deep dive, the ultimate goal, delivering a firm boundary.
The iron hand inside the glove.
Yes, The source material is totally unequivocal here. The entire purpose of the softeners, the velvet, the pacing, and the tone is solely to prepare the ground for that firm boundary.
If you fail to deliver the firm boundary, the softeners are worse than useless. They are manipulative.
Let's explore the word firm, because I think people confuse firmness with aggression.
They do. They think being firm means raising your voice or dominating the room.
But that's not it.
Not at all. Firm does not mean angry. Firm means immovable. It means clear, precise, and devoid of ambiguity.
If you say, actually, I'd rather not take that on, but I guess if you really need me to, I will try to squeeze it in.
You have completely failed. The velvet glove just slipped right off.
You just taught them that your no actually means convince me.
Exactly. To truly master the firm boundary, we have to look at the advanced audio cues. How do you sound firm without sounding aggressive?
It's all about intonation, specifically downward inflection.
Downward inflection. Let's do an advanced stress test on this, set in a formal occasion.
Okay, a formal setting. Let's do client relations. Refusing non-standard client demands.
A perfect testing ground. Scope creep is where boundaries get shattered all the time.
Right. Scenario. You are on a formal video call with a major client. You have a signed contract. Suddenly, the client says, "We really need you to add these 5 custom reporting features by tomorrow. We assume this is included in the current budget, right?"
This is a critical moment. If you say yes, you set a precedent for free work,
The impolite response is, "No way, read the contract."
which destroys the relationship. The people-pleasing response is, well, let me see if we can work some magic.
Which ruins your weekend.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now let's look at the velvet glove response. This requires lengthening your pauses to demonstrate professional firmness and using that downward inflection at the end.
Listeners, pay close attention to the pitch of the voice here.
Actually, those custom features fall entirely outside the agreed scope of work. I'd rather draft a separate proposal for this new build so we can dedicate the proper resources to it.
The gravity in that delivery is incredible. Let's analyze the intonation. When you said agreed scope of work, your pitch dropped significantly.
It did. The sentence ended on a heavy downward note.
It sounded like a judge bringing down a gavel. Boom.
That downward inflection is the audio signature of a firm boundary,
What happens if you use an upward inflection?
which is very common when people are nervous. If I say, those custom features fall outside the scope of work.
It sounds like a question, which practically begs the client to argue with you. Well, we don't think so.
Exactly. The upward inflection seeks validation. The downward inflection states an immovable fact. The pitch dropping at the end of the sentence is the iron hand.
Let's do a stress mark practice for our listener.
Okay.
Listener, I'm going to say the sentence with an upward inflection. Then the expert will say it with a downward inflection. Then I want you to imitate the downward inflection.
We are focusing on the phrase, that is outside the scope of work.
Incorrect upward inflection. That is outside the scope of work.
Correct. Downward inflection. That is outside the scope of work.
Your turn, listener. Say it with authority.
Pause for listener practice.
If you one more, I'll give you a sentence.
Right.
Drop your pitch at the very end. I cannot take on new projects.
Pause for listener practice.
Yes, drop that pitch.
Now let's talk about something that happens right after you deliver that firm boundary.
The awkward silence.
Yes. How do we manage the aftermath? That is where remedial phrases come into play.
Remedial phrases. What are those?
A remedial phrase is the conversational salve you apply after the boundary is enforced. You've said no politely, you use downward inflection, but you want to ensure the working relationship is secure.
Let's do an impromptu speaking test to demonstrate this. An impromptu response to a peer.
Right.
You're walking out the door on a Wednesday. A peer stops you and says, "Hey, I completely forgot to write my quarterly update. Can you draft something up for me really quick? I have a dinner reservation."
Wow. Okay. Here is the buffer, the boundary, and the remedial phrase all together. Actually, my own workload is completely full today. I won't be able to write that for you. Good luck getting it finished, though. Have a great dinner once it's done.
Oh man, that is beautifully structured. You completely shut them down, but you ended on a warm note.
It separates the task from the relationship. I am rejecting the spreadsheet. I am not rejecting you.
So, we've covered a massive amount of ground today. Let's do a quick review and summarize our practice content.
A recap is a great idea.
What are the top 5 core polite refusal words we covered today?
Let's listen clearly. 1, actually. 2, perhaps. Or maybe. 3. Unfortunately. 4. I'd rather. 5. I tend to.
And what is the biggest mistake people make when refusing a request?
The The biggest mistake is either using a blunt, aggressive no without a buffer or over-explaining their refusal out of guilt.
Oh, right. We didn't talk much about over-explaining.
When you over-explain your no, you give the other person ammunition to dismantle your excuse. Just state the boundary and hold the line.
And what about intonation? What is the golden rule?
Elongate the first vowel of your buffer word, insert a deliberate pause, and finish the sentence with a firm downward inflection.
Let's do one final long dialogue practice to tie all these coherent skills together.
A full complex scenario.
I'm going to play a highly manipulative manager. You are the subordinate. I want you to use the full velvet glove technique. And let's imagine the background noise. The office is buzzing, phones are ringing, it's chaotic.
He's setting the scene. I'm ready.
Hey, listen, I know it's Friday afternoon, and I know you have weekend plans, but this data migration is a disaster, and honestly, you're the only one smart enough to fix it. I really need you to stay late tonight and rebuild this database.
Actually, I have a prior personal commitment this evening that is completely immovable. But I do understand the urgency. I'd rather come in early on Monday morning and tackle the database with fresh eyes when I can give it my full attention. With that timeline, keep the project on track.
Masterclass. The long sentences had perfect natural transitions. You used the buffer, stated the boundary, offered a win-win alternative, and asked a collaborative question.
It takes practice to string those together smoothly under pressure.
It really does. Which brings us to our final thought for the listener.
We've spent this entire session analyzing how to pad our rejections in velvet. We've celebrated the diplomacy of the modern workplace.
But is there a tipping point? Is there a risk that our corporate culture becomes so heavily padded in velvet, so obsessed with softening every blow, that the firm boundaries disappear entirely?
That is the velvet trap. If everyone is just hinting at things, using endless softeners, and terrified of directness, does the actual meaning get lost in translation?
Does it breed a culture of passive aggression where nobody knows where they actually stand?
It's a delicate balancing act. How do you, as you build your career, ensure that your velvet doesn't completely erase your no? How do you remain authentic while being diplomatic?
That is the true ongoing challenge of professional communication. It is a question worth asking every single time you open your mouth in a meeting.
Definitely.
Thank you for joining us on this exhaustive deep dive into professional boundaries. We hope this listening practice has equipped you with the exact phrases and the intonation you need to navigate your workplace with confidence.
Keep practicing those pauses. Perfect your downward inflection and never underestimate the immense power of the velvet glove.
That was an exhaustive look at how to balance diplomacy with firmness. Remember, the velvet is the wrapping paper, the politeness, but the iron hand inside must remain immovable.
It really is a balancing act. Use those pauses, master your downward inflection, and remember that rejecting a task isn't the same as rejecting a person.
Keep practicing those scripts, and you'll navigate your workplace with way more confidence. Thanks for joining us on Leo's Daily English. We'll see you in the next episode.